Y News. President Rodrigo Duterte orders total deployment ban on Filipino workers to Kuwait. The Senate orders the arrest of former Pol Chief Andres Bautista over hidden wealth probe. Tropical cyclone warning signal raised in some parts of Visayas and Mindanao as Bashang sets to make landfall in the country tomorrow. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. The Department of Labor and Employment has ordered a total deployment ban of OFWs to Kuwait. Recruitment agencies support the move. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment has issued an order prohibiting the deployment of workers to Kuwait. This came after President Rodrigo Duterte said he wants to stop sending workers to Kuwait because of the Kuwaiti government's inaction to the maltreatment of Filipino workers. The deployment ban covers not only domestic helpers but also skilled workers. However, OFWs who are on vacation will be allowed to return to Kuwait as long as they have a good working condition there.
Basically, we would like them to go back. Kaya lang siguraduhin namin na yung pababalikin namin, hindi ito yung mga peking balik manggagawa.
The Labor Department will create a task force for the repatriation of around 2,500 distressed and maltreated workers from Kuwait. The last batch are expected to be home by Wednesday. DOLE assures there are jobs for returning workers waiting in the Philippines. In fact, they will be conducting job fairs in the Middle East to recruit OFWs who already want to go home. Skilled workers can also apply for jobs in New Zealand, Canada, Germany, and other European countries. There is also an agreement with the Japanese government for the hiring of skilled Filipino workers.
Ang available jobs po dito, humigit kumulang 80,000 na. But in the next 3 years, ang sabi po ng Japanese government, they will be needing at least 300,000 jobs. No?
Mag-apply pa rin sila at they will go through the process.
Aside from employment, the government will also extend assistance to repatriated OFWs. This includes a 20,000 peso livelihood assistance and 5,000 peso cash. Meanwhile, recruitment agencies affirm that they will support the deployment ban even if it will adversely affect their business. They believe that such government decision means better protection for Filipino workers.
This is the right time siguro na upuan din ng Kuwait government at saka Philippine government, yung tinatawag nilang bilateral agreement.
Workers who are already departing for Kuwait were upset with the deployment ban. Apple, who has worked as a domestic helper in Kuwait, is returning for the second time.
Sa lahat ng part ng Middle East, mas magandang Kuwait. Kung hindi ako aalis, saan naman ako kuha ng paano ko buhayin yung mga anak ko, ganun.
Gemma is leaving for Kuwait for the first time. But for now, her dream of a better life for her children will have to wait.
Nag-isip ako na lahat-lahat na mabigay ko lahat sa anak ko pag pumunta na ako sa Kuwait. Pero binan kasi.
Apple and Gemma are still lucky because their agency will instead deploy them to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Manila.
The Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, vows to provide assistance to the distressed OFWs in finding new jobs abroad following their repatriation. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
2 batches of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, from Kuwait arrived in the country earlier this morning. The more than 300 repatriated OFWs are among those granted with amnesty by the Kuwaiti government.
Yung mga nag-overstay at yung legal status ay napaso. Yung mga may kaso, mga kasambahay natin na tumakbo at humingi ng tulong sa Philippine government.
Among the repatriated OFWs are Rose and Christy. They felt relief upon arriving at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA.
Masaya kasi nakauwi na kami naligtas. Kasi hindi pinapasahod ng amo kaya lumayas.
Masaya po, okay naman po, at least nakauwi na kami.
The OFWs were welcomed by the officials of the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA. Each was given cash for their transportation back to their provinces. They also received 5,000 peso financial assistance and 20,000 pesos livelihood fund.
Kapag may pagkakataon magbalik kasi dito sa Pilipinas, marami man talagang trabaho dito, kaya lang yung sahod dito hindi naman malaki masyado.
If some seek to work abroad anew, others no longer wish to go back.
Naku, wag na. Ang sasama ng ugali ng Arabo sa Kuwait.
The Kuwaiti government set the deadline for the amnesty on the 22nd of February. In March, it will begin its crackdown on undocumented foreign workers. OWA is hoping that OFWs in Kuwait will take advantage of the amnesty offered by the Kuwaiti government. The agency also calls on Filipino workers facing problems in employment abroad to call its hotlines. OFWs may contact OWA via its hotline number 02-551-1560 or through text messaging in the numbers 0917 text OWA. Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippines and China will meet for the second time to discuss the maritime dispute in the South China Sea. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Malacanang confirms tomorrow's meeting of high-ranking Chinese and Philippine officials for the second bilateral consultation mechanism or BCM in Manila. BCM is the platform where both countries will discuss issues on the maritime dispute in the South China Sea. The delegation will be led by Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Kong Xuan Yu and Philippine Foreign Affairs Undersecretary for Policy Enrique Manalo.
The second meeting of this Philippine-China bilateral consultation mechanism on the South China Sea will be held here in Manila tomorrow, February 13, 2018.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says the bilateral meeting is the proof that the Duterte administration is doing something about the issue. However, Malacanang clarifies that the government will not file a new protest to China on its alleged almost finished militarization in the South China Sea. Roque says the Philippines has existing protests filed before China, and these are expected to be discussed in the meeting tomorrow.
The Philippine government has consistently filed protests, and even during the term of President Duterte, we have filed protests.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Senate Committee on Banks orders the arrest of former Commission on Elections Chairman Andres Bautista. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
Directing that the chairman be arrested and delivered to the Senate if and when he arrives.
Senate Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions and Currencies decide to cite in contempt former Commission on Elections Chairman Andres Bautista. The committee also asked the Senate President to issue a warrant of arrest against the former poll chief after he failed to attend for the third time the Senate's hearing on his alleged ill-gotten wealth.
Maliwanag na iniiwasan naman talaga niya ang proseso ng pagdinig.
In a letter he sent to the Senate, Bautista explains he did not receive any subpoena from the Senate and that he learned of the invitation only from the media. Bautista claims he is currently abroad and is suffering various health concerns due to hypertension. However, the Senate committee doubts Bautista's explanation. Based on the records of the Bureau of Immigration gathered by the committee, Bautista left the country on October 28, 2017 and returned on November 1st of the same year. Escudero dares Bautista to sign a waiver that would allow the committee to examine his bank accounts. Bautista's wife also calls on the former poll chief to face and answer all the issues.
Out of respect for the Senate, please appear because that's the least you can do. Answer the questions that the people are asking.
Based on the allegation of Mrs. Patricia Bautista, The former COMELEC chief has 35 accounts in the Luzon Development Bank, reaching a total amount of 329 million pesos. The amount is contrary to his declared assets in his Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said President Rodrigo Duterte did not extend the term of Social Security System Chairman Amado Valdez as well as Commissioner Jose Gabriel Pompee Viña. Both serve in their term in a holdover capacity and have expired on June 30, 2017. Secretary Roque insisted that the decision is a presidential prerogative and cited no reasons for non-extension. The president has not appointed their replacement yet.
The executive secretary has formally informed Mr. Jose Gabriel M. Viña Pompee, as well as Mr. Amado D. Valdez, that their term of office, both of which expired 30 June 2017 as commissioners of the SSS, will not be renewed.
The Office of the Civil Defense in Region 6 conducted this morning a pre-disaster risk assessment and held an emergency response preparedness meeting in Western Visayas due to Tropical Storm Bashang. The OCD placed Region 6 under alert status after Pag-asa raised the storm warning signal, with Negros Occidental seen to be the hardest hit.
The whole provinces of Negros Occidental, gumawa rin sila ng feedback. They're doing it right now. But still, we have to monitor kasi flooded area kasi yung ano natin, no? Pag malakas yung ulan, as what I have heard about, I mean, the office of MDR dito sa city, ready naman po sila.
The Philippine National Police and the National Telecommunications Commission are in full alert, while the DSWD has allotted over 6 million pesos as augmentation for the LGUs that will be hit by the storm. Meanwhile, the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office has placed Misamis Oriental under red alert status. The whole province, including Cagayan de Oro City, is now under warning signal number 1. Classes are suspended in selected public and private schools in the province, while all types of sea vessels bound for Manila and Cebu are now suspended. For the latest news abroad, here's Amiel Pascual from Taiwan. Yes, Amiel.
Good evening, Darlene. President Vladimir Putin has ordered to set up a government commission to probe into crash of a passenger plane with 71 people on board shortly after leaving Moscow on Sunday. The Russian Investigative Committee has opened an investigation into the crash, while the Russian Transport Ministry has said several causes are being considered, including weather conditions and human factors. The Antonov 148 of Saratov Airlines, with 65 passengers and 6 crew members on board, was en route from Domodedovo Airport in Moscow to Orsk of the Orenburg region in western Russia. Because the crash site was at the edge of a village outside Moscow, it did not result to any casualty on the ground or significantly impact the lives of local villagers. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, here in Taiwan, the Taiwanese government prepares for the compensation for the families of the victims who died in the massive quake in Taiwan, which includes Filipina Melody de Castro.
Filipina caregiver Melody de Castro's family and that of the 2 others who died in the earthquake while working will be entitled to at least 1.19 million Taiwan dollars, or more than 2 million pesos, in compensation and financial assistance, according to the Bureau of Labor Insurance. The Bureau said the families of the 3 individuals, Melody and 2 other Taiwanese helpers, are entitled to 45 months of individual monthly pay, based on laws governing compensation for employees who die on the job. Melody, as a caregiver, received around 38,000 pesos a month. Based on a conservative estimate of her case, her family will receive 45 months of her monthly salary, or more than 1.7 million pesos, plus an additional 350,000 pesos in financial assistance and consolation money. Meanwhile, the search and rescue operations were already discontinued, though there is still one body left unaccounted for. The relatives of the Chinese family of 5 have consented to the local government's plan to stop the search and to deploy heavy excavators at the site.
Darlene, as of this moment, the Manila Economic and Cultural Office is still working on the process of repatriating the body of Melody and the needed travel documents of her family for them to claim her remains. And those are the news-making headlines. Back to you.
Thank you, Amiel. And that's Amiel Pascual live from Taiwan. The 4 finalists for the final wildcard battle of Wishcovery has now been chosen to compete in the finals of Wishcovery. Here's why from Leslie Longbowen.
The vocal showdown of returning wishfuls of Wishcovery last Saturday was exciting, as this is where the last wishful who will compete in the final stage of the wildcard round was chosen. Charlene Hernandez of Muntinlupa City studied the previous comments of the resident reactors for her performance of the song Iisa Pa Lamang.
At kahit iba na ang minamahal mo, kung sino man ang siyang may-ari ng iyong puso.
Malinis, masarap, kaya lang yung hatid.
Also returning to the competition was semi-finalist Audrey Malaiba of Batangas. She performed Kung Ako Na Lang Sana.
Kung ako na lang sana ang iyong minahal, di ka na muling luluha pa.
Bicol's pride, Laika Buñol, performed Franco's Better Days for her comeback performance.
The world is gonna see some better days. The feeling starts within us today.
But the one who stood out in this cluster is John Harvey Magos of Rizal.
Araw gabi, nasa isip ka, napapanaginip ka, kahit saan magpunta.
Very good performance.
Yep. Good song choice.
Dynamics,
good
wonderful.
Dynamic.
Originality.
Yes.
John Harvey will be part of the final wildcard battle and will face Jenny May Mabini, Princess Sevillana, and Zakia Jane Miller this Saturday. The winner in the wildcard round will face the Wishful 4 and will have the chance to become the first ever grand champion of the freshest online singing competition in the country, the Wishcovery.
Sa tuwa, kapag kapiling ka, araw-gabi tayo dalawa.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Next on Y News. The Office of the Ombudsman orders the dismissal of Cebu Representative Gwen Garcia over graft charges. Senate to subpoena businessman Bong Pineda on probe on illegal STL operation. Y News will be right back in a short while. Meanwhile, I'm Darlene Basingan. Stay tuned for William Thio. Good evening.
On Y News Tonight, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration vows to provide assistance to OFWs from Kuwait following total deployment ban order. Provincial government braces for possible lahar flow in Albay ahead of tropical cyclone Bashang. The Office of the Ombudsman orders the dismissal of Cebu Representative Gwen Garcia over graft charges. Good evening. The Department of Labor and Employment has ordered a total deployment ban of OFWs to Kuwait. Recruitment agencies support the move. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment has issued an order prohibiting the deployment of workers to Kuwait. This came after President Rodrigo Duterte said he wants to stop sending workers to Kuwait because of the Kuwaiti government's inaction to the maltreatment of Filipino workers. The deployment ban covers not only domestic helpers but also skilled workers. However, OFWs who are on vacation will be allowed to return to Kuwait as long as they have a good working condition there.
Basically, we would like them to go back. Kaya lang siguraduhin namin na yung pababalikin namin, hindi ito yung mga peking balik manggagawa.
The Labor Department will create a task force for the repatriation of around 2,500 distressed and maltreated workers from Kuwait. The last batch are expected to be home by Wednesday. DOLE assures there are jobs for returning workers waiting in the Philippines. In fact, they will be conducting job fairs in the Middle East to recruit OFWs who already want to go home. Skilled workers can also apply for jobs in New Zealand, Canada, Germany, and other European countries. There is also an agreement with the Japanese government for the hiring of skilled Filipino workers.
Ang available jobs po dito, humigit kumulang 80,000 na. But in the next 3 years, ang sabi po ng Japanese government, they will be needing at least 300,000 jobs.
Mag-apply pa rin sila at they will go through the process.
Aside from employment, the government will also extend assistance to repatriated OFWs. This includes a 20,000 peso livelihood assistance and 5,000 peso cash. Meanwhile, recruitment agencies affirm that they will support the deployment ban even if it will adversely affect their business. They believe that such government decision means better protection for Filipino workers.
This is the right time siguro na upuan din ng Kuwait government at saka Philippine government, yung tinatawag nilang bilateral agreement.
Workers who are already departing for Kuwait were upset with the deployment ban. Apple, who has worked as a domestic helper in Kuwait, is returning for the second time.
Sa lahat ng part ng Middle East, mas magandang Kuwait. If hindi ako aalis, saan naman ako kukuha ng paano ko buhayin yung mga anak ko, ganun.
Gemma is leaving for Kuwait for the first time. But for now, her dream of a better life for her children will have to wait.
Nag-isip ako na lahat-lahat na mabigay ko lahat sa anak ko pag pumunta na ako sa Kuwait. Pero binan kasi.
Apple and Gemma are still lucky because their agency will instead deploy them to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, more than 300 repatriated OFWs granted with amnesty by the Kuwaiti government arrived in the country early this morning. The Kuwaiti government has set the deadline for the amnesty on the 22nd of February. In March, it will begin its crackdown on undocumented foreign workers. OWA is hoping that OFWs in Kuwait will take advantage of the amnesty offered by the Kuwaiti government. The agency also calls on Filipino workers facing problems in employment abroad to call its hotlines for assistance. The Office of the Ombudsman orders the dismissal of Cebu Representative Gwen Garcia over graft charges. However, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez insists he will not implement the order of the Ombudsman. Grace Casin will tell us why.
The Office of the Ombudsman orders House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez to dismiss Cebu Representative Gwen Garcia as a member of the House of Representatives due to graft charges. It stems from her alleged controversial purchase of a 98.9 million peso Balili property in Tinaan, Naga, Cebu in 2008 when she was still the governor of the province. The Ombudsman found in its investigation that the contract entered into by Garcia did not undergo proper process and was not approved by the Provincial Council. Based on the decision of the Ombudsman, Garcia violated Administrative Code of 1987 and Government Auditing Code of the Philippines. The law requires any public official to secure certification of appropriation and fund availability before entering a contract. The Cebu lawmaker, however, questions the timing of the release of the said decision. Despite this, Garcia says she will continue her work and leave the decision on the matter to the House leadership.
You rather wonder whether this was purposely done, precisely because, as you saw, I am very active in this impeachment hearing.
On the other hand, House Speaker Pantalon Alvarez says he will not implement the order of the Ombudsman.
There is nothing in the Constitution that allows me to do that. In fact, it is not within the power of the Ombudsman to discipline, much more to remove any member of the House of Representatives. So pag ginawa ko yan, I will be violating the Constitution.
House Majority Floor Leader Rodolfo Fariñas meanwhile says to avoid such an incident, the Congress passed the proposed amendments for the Republic Act 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. It states that any government official facing charges cannot be suspended or removed from their position when the complaint happened during his or her previous position.
Halimbawa, katulad yan, governor siya nun, yung congressman na siya, hindi mo siya kailangan suspended even preventively dahil it is not for the same position.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Meanwhile, Supreme Court Justice Diosdado Peralta expresses dismay today upon learning that Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno failed to submit her Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN, to the Judicial and Bar Council, or JBC. Peralta says Sereno should have been disqualified for her post for such failure, yet she had been listed as Chief Justice candidate in 2012. Peralta was then the head of the JBC en banc.
What kind of Chief Justice do we have? But this one, I think napalusutan ako rito eh.
The Sereno camp, however, says Justice Peralta was just washing his hands clean of how Chief Justice Sereno was included in the JBC shortlist. In other news, retired Police Superintendent Antonio Bago, a former provincial manager of Even Chance Gaming Corporation, testifies today in the Senate on the illegal operations of Small Town Lottery, or STL, from non-declaration of income to non-remittance of income to the National Treasury. Bago claims that STLS now seems to have become a front of weteng operations. Bago also avers that some former top officials of the PCSO have received kickbacks from weteng.
Pinatawag po yung kahero namin, yung palang sesto, front lang yun. Yung palang box, yun ang lalagyan ng pera. Kaya nung dumating po si Director Quiñones, gano'n na nga po.
Magkano laman ng sesto?
500,000 po.
Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Games and Amusement will be summoning Bong Pineda, who is said to be the biggest weteng operator in the country.
Since na napakarami niyang probinsyang siya nag-operate, and at the same time, may mga allegations ng guerrilla operations or bookie operations.
Although Typhoon Bashang will not directly hit Albay, the local government is still preparing for the possible effects of rain to the lahar deposits of Mayon volcano. Monhok Son will tell us why.
The entire province of Albay is now on alert as tropical cyclone Bashang sets to hit the country. But according to the Albay Public Safety and Emergency Office, or APSEMO, the public has nothing to worry about since Bashang will not directly hit Bicol. APSEMO clarifies that the rains would even help clean up lahar deposits in the foot of the volcano. From this, the lahar will flow towards the rivers. However, it becomes dangerous. APSEMO notes when the river overflows with lahar.
Kapag umabot tayo ng mataas pa sa threshold ng new deposits, pwedeng gumalaw yung old deposits, malalaking bato kasama yan sa lahar.
The provincial government of Albay is now preparing for a possible lahar flow, since Mayon volcano already spewed out 81 million cubic meters since it erupted on January 13. As preparation for the rainy season, local officials have begun the construction of a dike where the lahar from the Mount Mayon will go in case the rainfall gets heavy.
Importante po yan sa mga residente dito kasi pag umuulan, lalo na ngayon umuulan, natatakot po sila, baka daw iaagos ng
The APSEMO has also prepared an evacuation plan for the towns of Camalig and Ginubatan. These are the towns that might experience lahar flow. Aside from these towns, residents of 7 other villages will also be evacuated when the amount of rainfall reaches 22 mm per hour. The cities of Legazpi and Santo Domingo might also be evacuated when the lahar flows in nearby rivers. Roads might also become unpassable when this happens.
Pwedeng mag-road closure niyan. Pero paghahandaan din namin yan sa mga heavy equipment para within 24 hours after ng movement, passable kagad ang kalsada.
Alert Level 4 remains hoisted over the Mayon volcano, while there are still more than 70,000 evacuees across the entire province of Albay. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Legazpi City, Albay.
In the United States, the U.S. House of Representatives has approved a bill to end an overnight federal shutdown on Thursday last week. The stopgap funding and budget measure, approved by a 240 to 186 House vote, will go next to President Donald Trump. The White House said in a statement that he will sign it into law, which would extend government funding through March 23. In Venezuela, soldiers clashed with illegal miners in southern Venezuela on the weekend, killing 18 people in a region notorious for violence and gang rivalries, local media has reported. Local newspaper Correo del Caroni reported that 17 men and 1 woman died in the incident on Saturday morning in an area known for gold and diamond mining. The government did not respond to requests for comment. In Indonesia, Indonesian Navy on Saturday paraded the arrest of drug smugglers and 1.1 ton of methamphetamine drugs found on board a Singaporean flagged vessel in Indonesian water near the Singapore. The drug was found on board the Sunrise Glory MV ship, where it was hidden with sacks of rice on Wednesday, the Navy said. Through the investigation of the Navy and the Anti-Narcotics Agency, 2 tons of drugs are reported missing, which the Anti-Narcotic Agency said the missing drugs are likely been shipped to Australian territory.
Up next on Y News. The National Food Authority Council wants evaluation of NFA storage, distribution, and sale of rice. COMELEC maintains to continue ballot printing despite calls of another postponement of barangay polls in May. Y News will be right back. Here are the headlines on Y News tonight. President Rodrigo Duterte orders total deployment ban on Filipino workers to Kuwait. Tropical cyclone warning signal raised in some parts of Visayas and Mindanao as Basingan sets to make landfall in the country tomorrow. COMELEC maintains to continue ballot printing despite calls of another postponement of barangay polls in May. Good evening. The Department of Labor and Employment has issued an order prohibiting the deployment of workers to Kuwait. The deployment ban covers not only domestic helpers but also skilled workers. However, OFWs who are on vacation will be allowed to return to Kuwait as long as they have a good working condition there.
Basically, we would like them to go back. Kaya lang siguraduhin namin na yung pababalikin namin, hindi ito yung mga peking balik manggagawa.
Meanwhile, DOLE will be conducting job fairs in the Middle East to recruit OFWs who already want to go home. Aside from employment, the government will also extend assistance to repatriated OFWs. This includes a 20,000 peso livelihood assistance and 5,000 pesos cash. Meanwhile, recruitment agencies affirm that they will support the deployment ban even if it will adversely affect their business. They believe that such government decisions means better protection for Filipino workers. Meanwhile, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, is hoping that OFWs in Kuwait will take advantage of the amnesty offered by the Kuwaiti government. The Kuwaiti government has set the deadline for the amnesty on the 22nd of February. In March, it will begin its crackdown on undocumented foreign workers. The agency also calls on Filipino workers facing problems in employment abroad to call its hotlines for assistance. More than 300 repatriated OFWs granted with amnesty by the Kuwaiti government arrived in the country early this morning. In other news, the Commission on Elections admits that it has spent 2 billion pesos from its barangay election fund even before the polls in May. Here's why from Ray Pelayo.
COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez admits in the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon that the agency now has only 5 billion pesos budget for the upcoming May 2018 village polls. The amount was originally 7 billion pesos, but the agency already used large chunk of the other 2 billion pesos for the printing of ballots. But Jimenez justifies that most of the spending will not be wasted.
Ang maganda niyan kay Daniel, yung karamihan doon sa ginastos namin noon, magagamit pa natin ngayon. Ang pinakamalaking, ang bulto talaga niyan ay yung balota. No? So magagamit natin yan.
However, the official said the amount paid as salary for their additional personnel remains irrecoverable. Still, several lawmakers are pushing for the postponement of the barangay election in May, but COMELEC insists that they will continue to prepare for the polls. In fact, Jimenez says the agency is now 85% prepared and will start the printing of 18 million ballots come mid-February. Jimenez argued that another postponement of the election would definitely affect democracy in the country, specifically the public's rights to select the leaders of the land. On top of the problems considered by the COMELEC is vote buying.
Di ba pwede kang makulong dun? Oo naman. Ba't wala pa kayo napapakulong yata? Medyo mahirap mapatunayan ang vote buying.
Another issue the agency wants to resolve is the implementation of election gun ban, since they still have not received any written notice from the palace regarding the ban.
Nawi-weaken yung institution, nawi-weaken yung processes kasi hindi ka sure. Diba? Yun ang lasting damage.
Even the Philippine National Police say they are just waiting for the COMELEC to issue its guidelines for the gun ban.
Expected na magkakaroon ng gun ban.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The National Food Authority Council wants to evaluate the National Food Authority system of storage, distribution, and sale of rice. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
NFA Council Chairman and Cabinet Secretary June Evasco assures there is no shortage of rice in the country. However, the agency needs to import rice to increase the country's buffer stock and to stabilize the price of rice in the market.
We assure the public that there is no rice shortage, and this importation is only as to NFA's buffer stock.
However, the NFA Council wants an evaluation of the sale, storage, and distribution of NFA rice. This is because of some private rice traders who are hoarding rice supply to manipulate the price of rice in the market.
Unfortunately, may pumasok dito ng hoarding. Yung hoarding, pumasok dito yung cartel, yung sequestration of imported rice by some big traders, thereby creating rice shortage which would propel high price of rice in the market. That's why we just ask that there is going to be evaluation as to the strategies engaged done by NFA.
Meanwhile, the rice that will be imported by the government will be from Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and China. The importation of the 250,000 metric tons of rice through government to private importation will be done after the harvest season in the month of June. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Coalition for People's Rights to Health and a group of teachers and parents meet with the UP-PGH expert panel on Dengvaxia controversy. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Parents with children who are Dengvaxia vaccinees are bewildered because of the different opinions and views of doctors regarding Dengvaxia. That is why they have decided to discuss and clarify things with the UP-PGH expert panel. According to the Coalition for People's Right to Health or CPRH, they want to help these parents in seeking free medical assistance, justice, and indemnification.
Itong forum na to ay independent, sponsored by the Coalition for People's Right to Health. At may mga reactors, magkakaroon din tayo ng mga lawyers ito ay more for the coalition talagang pro-people eh. Kaya kung anong makakabuti sa mas nakakarami nating mga magulang at maraming kababayan, yun talagang ating gustong ipahayag.
One of those who seek help is the faculty president of Nagpayong Elementary School in Pasig City, which has an estimate of 1,000 vaccinees in 2016. He says the Vaxxa issue has affected their students in various ways. These include refusing the free medical services offered to them like deworming. The vaccinees are also considered as objects of ridicule.
Binubuli sila ng mga hindi na-vaksinan. Sabi, uy, mamamatay ka na kasi na-vaksinan ka. So may effect yun sa kanila na nagkakosyon ng parang hindi pagkakaunawaan sa loob din ng klase na yun nga yung ginagawa ko na pinapacify ko na lang sila para hindi sila mag-away.
The forum with the UP-PGH expert panel headed by Dr. Juliet Sho Aguilar lasted for 4 hours. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Tropical storm Bashang maintains its strength as it moves closer to the Philippine landmass. As of 8 p.m. tonight, Bashang was estimated at 355 kilometers southeast of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur, packing maximum sustained winds of 65 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 80 kilometers per hour. It moves to the west-northwest direction at 25 kilometers per hour. Pagasa says the cyclone Bashang is expected to make landfall in Caraga region tomorrow morning or in the afternoon. Tropical cyclone warning signal number 2 is now raised over Surigao del Sur, Surigao del Norte, Agusan del Norte, Agusan del Sur, and Dinagat Islands. Expect heavy rains that may trigger flash floods and landslides in those areas. Signal number 1 is raised in the southern portion of Samar, southern portion of eastern Samar, Biliran, Leyte, southern Leyte, Bohol, Cebu, Negros Oriental, Zamboanga Sibugay, Zamboanga del Norte, and the northern portion of Zamboanga del Sur. Rains and gusty winds will also be experienced in those areas. Pagasa says rains may also be experienced in the rest of Visayas and Mindanao and in Bicol region. Sea travel remains risky over the seaboards of areas under tropical cyclone warning signal number 1. The seaboards of northern Luzon and the Visayas, the eastern seaboards of central Luzon, and the eastern and southern seaboards of southern Luzon due to the approaching tropical storm and the surge of the northeast monsoon. For the latest news abroad, here is Eric Ferrer from Seoul, South Korea. Eric.
Thank you, Will. People at Beijing main railway station are seen carrying luggage and queuing to enter the station hall, with some rushing to catch their ride as the spring season begins. Dulce Alarcon will tell us why.
The world's largest mass human migration continues as tens of thousands of people flock to Beijing's main train station to catch a train back home to be with their families. Beijing will witness a total of 960,000 trips, with 245,000 of those trips from Beijing West Railway Station. People at Beijing main railway station were seen queuing to enter the station hall, with some rushing to catch their ride.
之前上学的时候也没觉得 人有这么多，我们可能就是赶的时候正好现在上班嘛，然后就赶的时候就比较那个，就是高峰期的时候，反正就人家挺多的。
937 trains were added to the rail network to accommodate more than 11 million trips expected on Sunday for the 11th day of the 2018 Spring Festival travel rush across China, as people make way home for the Spring Festival. Shanghai will see 322 trains added to its network, 1.92 million trips in and out of its stations. Guangzhou City, South China's Guangdong province, will see a total of 1.66 million trips. The 40-day travel frenzy began on February 1st and will last until March 12. During this period, the estimated total volume of people traveling would be around 3 billion. For now, almost 90 million people have been on the rail since the Chinese New Year transportation rush started, according to Chinese Transport Ministry. Dulce Alarcon, UNTV News and Rescue, China.
Meanwhile, the South Korea's Unification Ministry said on Monday that they are working in close cooperation with the U.S. to resolve North Korea's nuclear program. This after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un invited South Korean President Moon Jae-in for talks in Pyongyang. North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong, who visited South Korea to attend the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, delivered her brother's personal invitation during a meeting with Moon on Saturday, Seoul's presidential spokesman said. Kim Yo-jong, 28, is the first member of the ruling Kim family bearing the bloodline of the sacred Mount Paektu, a centerpiece of the North's idolization and propaganda campaign, crossed the border into the South since the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis on Sunday said it was too early to tell whether a diplomatic détente between the two Koreas at the Winter Olympics would lead to positive results. Meanwhile, an update in the ongoing Pyeongchang Winter Olympics here in South Korea. A second attempt to get the alpine skiing underway at the Pyeongchang Olympics failed today when the women's giant slalom was postponed because of high winds. The slalom race at the Yongpyong Alpine Center, in which the Philippine contender Asa Miller will compete, had been moved to Thursday with an earlier start time to accommodate the men's downhill at the Jongson venue. Germany still leads the game with 4 gold medals, followed by the Netherlands and the United States, both with 2 gold medals, while Norway, Canada, France, Austria, the Republic of Korea, and Sweden all have 1 gold medals so far. That's the latest news here in Asia. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Eric Ferrer, live from Seoul, South Korea. The 4 teams who made it to the UNTV Cup Season 6 semifinals will meet again on Sunday. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
With the defensive rebound, Duanzo tatakbo, 3 against 1, no look pass to Narayan for the 2. Ganda naman nun.
In the Kamao Builders match, NHA Builders dominated the first to third quarters and kept Malacanang PSC Kamao on the run. But the Season 5 runner-up team did not lose heart and battle hard, stealing the lead in the first 3 minutes of the last quarter, 63-62. With the red shirts top offense, the NHA was locked with only 4 points in the 5th minute of the quarter, and Camao's lead rose to 9 points, 64-73. But the Builders did not allow this turn of events, with Marvin Ladja and Alvin Bitug firing successive threes to tie the score at 76. And the buzzer went off to mark an overtime, with several key players from both sides put out of the court. NHA's Antonio Lestestica Jr. and Marvin Mercado, and Camao's Eric De La Cuesta. The ball game got even more intense. Palace bowlers Ian Garrido and Christian Wanson were also fouled out early in the overtime period. But Camao's assistant coach Rafi Gonzalez remained confident his team could make it through.
Nandun pa rin talaga yung tiwala ng bawat isa-isa. Yung sistema namin, saka yung puso nila, hindi talaga sila bumitaw hanggang sa huli.
Narayan Dasabier led the Kamao to the overtime with 19 points, including 2 from beyond the arc, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals.
Hindi kami naglalaro para lang sa pangalan sa likod, kundi para disarap and of course yung charity na pagbibigyan namin.
And in the Defenders Cavaliers battle, the Senate team surprised the 2-time champion AFP Cavaliers early in the game, ending the first quarter with a 14-point lead, 29-15. The Defenders maintained a double-digit lead until the final quarter of the match through a run-and-gun offense. The Senate also hassled on their defense and prevented the Soldiers' main gunners from making shots. Jeffrey Sanders and Gary Sevilla led the Defenders to the 74-64 win.
Maganda yung preparasyon namin going to this game. Maganda yung outcome ng attendance namin. And then, si Senator Sunny, Senator Joel, and yung mga ibang executives, maganda yung participation sa practices. Very vocal sila. Ang ganda, ang sarap mag-ensayo pagka ganun. Magaan yung pakiramdam ng mga bata going to this game.
With the Camals and Defenders wins, the 4 teams will meet again on Sunday for the deciding games on who will win the slots to the UNTV Cup Season 6 Finals. Bernard Davies, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And those are the reasons behind the news, February 12, 2018. I'm William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.